Everyone, I am Jill Berlin with WSJS, and we are here with Congressman Richard Hudson. Now, he is the 5th highest ranking Republican in the House. He's the highest ranking Republican ever from North Carolina. And you're also the chairman of which committee?
The Telecom.
And so, if you want something done, just come to this guy because he obviously knows how to get it done. And something that he is and has been working on is the HR 38 Act, which is the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, which is a mouthful. But tell us, just, for the everyday American who's listening, tell us what that is and why it's important.
Well, it's very important, but it's also very simple. Every state in the United States has some sort of process for allowing folks to carry concealed weapons. And in North Carolina, you have to go through a class, get certified, and then you get a permit. But the problem is every state has different laws, and so there's a hodgepodge of laws around the country. So a law-abiding citizen who goes through the hard work in North Carolina to get a permit becomes a criminal by driving across an invisible state line if that state happens to not have reciprocity with North Carolina. And so it's a real problem. And I look at it constitutionally. First of all, the Second Amendment is very clear. But you also look at the Article 4, Section 1, the Full Faith and Credit Clause, which says every state should recognize the legal proceedings and documents of other states, and that Congress has a role in determining how that's done. And so I think it's very appropriate that Congress says every state should recognize every other state, their permissions. So it's, to put it in simple terms, I live in North Carolina, I drive to DC to work. I don't have to stop at the Virginia state line and take a new driver's test and get a Virginia driver's license to continue driving on to DC. Virginia recognizes that I have a North Carolina license.
And that's a great way to say it, and I think it really helps, understand what that is. And, it almost seems antiquated that we have to even enact this as a law. And this is something that you tried to pass before in 2017, right? But the Senate didn't pick it up, passed in the House. And now you have bipartisan support. What's different this time around?
Well, you're exactly right. So 2017, Donald Trump was in the White House. We had a Republican Senate, Republican House, and we were able to get the bill through the House of Representatives with Democrat votes. But I couldn't get the Senate to even have a hearing on it. It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
And then, since then, we've never had unified Republican control. Democrats have controlled the White House or the House. But now's our time. Now Donald Trump's back in the White House. He's actually campaigned on this issue last time around. Mm-hmm. And John Thune is now the leader in the Senate. This is an issue he has supported in the past. Mm-hmm. And so I think everything is lining up now. Now is the time to get this done.
Yeah. Okay. So quick question. I know a lot of us who are out there watching are really grateful for all the work that you do in DC, but also sometimes I think that a lot of Americans are kind of confused on the process and what they do. And so something that we're trying to do is not just, give our political opinion, but educate the voters because their voice is important too. And so what are the steps to get this passed and enacted into law?
Well, I think you're making a good point. I work for 700,000 people in North Carolina, and so it's important that they know what we're doing and why.
It's a lot of people to work for.
It is. It's a lot. But it's a real honor that I'm their voice. They're counting on me to be up here and represent them.
Yeah.
And make the best decisions. But what they need to know is it's a very tough process. You've got to get through a committee of jurisdiction to the House floor, get the votes on the House, pass the House. Once that happens, then you start the process all over again in the Senate. It has to get through Senate committee of jurisdiction. It has to pass the vote on the Senate floor. So in the House, the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan's the chairman, is the committee of jurisdiction. I've already had conversations with him. Jim Jordan's a great constitutional conservative. He supports reciprocity. He's very supportive of my bill. And so now it's just a matter of getting it on the schedule. So, we're in session about 3 weeks a month. Mm-hmm. And you can count on, at least once a month having a markup. So only a few bills a month actually get this process. And so getting it on the calendar stuff. And so we're working now on trying to get that on the calendar. But once we get out of the committee, then we've got to get the majority leader, Steve Scalise, to schedule it on the House floor.
Yep.
Again, Steve's a huge supporter of the Second Amendment, and so I think he'll be very helpful. So once we get out of the House, then we got to start all over again in the Senate. But John Cornyn, senator from Texas, has a companion piece of legislation he's introduced that he's going to be working through the process of the Senate. So hopefully everything comes together before the end of a 2-year Congress. And my goal is get it out of the House this year, get it to President Trump's desk by the end of 2026.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and that's the thing too, is I don't think people realize how much red tape that you have to go through in order to get something passed. And so it is such a process. Now, what were some of the different steps to get appointed as chairman?
Well, so as chairman of the NRCC, our campaign committee, I was elected by all the Republicans in Congress. So I'm now have been elected to my second term in this job. It's a 2-year term. The first time I ran, I was running against a very popular, very strong congressman from Illinois. And so I basically just talked to every single Republican, either in person or on the phone or both, and told them my plans and made my pitch and had to get their support. And so it's kind of like running for homeroom president in school. I mean, because you're not fooling anybody. Everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You operate. So,
yeah.
But you got to go make your pitch and make your case. And
yeah.
It's also a lot like homeroom rep in that, the people you're asking to vote for you, they don't want to take a side and make one of their friends mad at them. And so that, there's a whole lot of dynamics going on in here, but you basically, in my case, I just tried to convince my colleagues that I had a good plan, that I was competent, that I could hold the House majority.
And something about Congressman Hudson is I've known him for a long time, and not only is he of sound mind and he is obviously very intelligent, he's also very disciplined, and he's studied great leaders from history. I remember some of the books that you've had, and so he is persistent and diligent in his perseverance to help out other Americans, for sure. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to be the highest ranking Republican member ever from North Carolina, because that's also an honor.
Well, it really is. It's very humbling because it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, people trust you with this amount of leadership. You don't want to let them down. And there's been a lot of great leaders in North Carolina that have served in Congress. There's a lot of great leaders right now in Congress. You think of Virginia Foxx, first woman from North Carolina to ever chair a committee. She's now chairing her second committee. She's the Rules Committee chairman, which is a very powerful position.
Yeah.
Every piece of legislation that goes to the floor has to go through her committee.
Right.
And you think of Patrick McHenry, who just retired. He was chairman of financial services. He was
NC's a powerhouse.
It is. But it also is a great opportunity for our state because I'm at the leadership table. Every day we're in session, the speaker convenes the whip, the leader, the conference chair, and me, and we sit and help him sort of plan the week, looking ahead, give him advice. So I'm in the room where decisions are being made, and I'm able to put forward issues that are important to North Carolina. So it's a great opportunity for our state, and so I try to be very mindful of that I need to use this time wisely, and I need to really keep in mind those 700,000 North Carolinians are counting on me, but also 7 million North Carolinians. Yeah,
and he does, because his schedule is always jam-packed. So the fact that he was able to squeeze in time for us is, we're very grateful for that. So also, tell me real quick, we see so much in the news about, President Trump, and, there's so much controversy. It just depends on which channel you tune into. But we really try so hard to just speak the facts. So if you could just give one message about what's going on up here within the first 100 days, because we know, that is such an important piece right now. And I have said that the first 100 days is like, with President Trump, is like politics on steroids. So for me, who's a political nerd, I love it. Yeah. But what is it like for you, who is in leadership and is a congressional member and is a Republican who is working with a Republican president?
Well, I'll start with me as a citizen. I was so...
And a dad.
And a dad and a husband.
And a husband, yeah.
I was so frustrated at the direction this country was heading over the last 4 years. And
apparently a lot of other Americans were.
Well, that's the thing. I was going into the election. We'd worked really hard. I felt like we'd done the things we needed to do to hold the House. I felt pretty confident Trump was going to win. But deep down, you wondered, has America changed? Am I out of step? But it turns out America was just as angry as I was. And so it restores your faith in America that Donald Trump won such an overwhelming victory. And if you think about this election, you had President Trump serve 4 years, and then he was replaced by someone who was completely different. Policies were 180-degree different.
Right.
And so the country got to see 4 years of Trump and 4 years of anti-Trump, and then had a referendum on it. Basically, you had those two on the ballot. Even once Harris was on the ballot, you basically have these two sets of policies, two philosophies for the country. And the American people overwhelmingly chose Donald Trump. I mean, he won this huge victory, the popular vote, won every swing state. The American people said, we hate the direction in the last 4 years. We want to go back in the different direction. And they gave Donald Trump a mandate. And Donald Trump has learned a lot from his first time around, and he's wasting no time. And so it's very exciting for me now as a leader working with President Trump very closely to see him doing what he said he was going to do. And there is some controversy because the other side is very upset. But the American people have spoken, and Donald Trump is moving forward very quickly, and it's very exciting. And I'm proud to work very closely with him.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add that I haven't asked about?
Well, I'm just proud of you and appreciate all you do to keep the people informed. And I think it's really important. And
that's very kind of you.
It's fun to be with you.
Oh, well, thank you. All right. Well, Congressman Richard Hudson, and thank you for all you're doing. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that was Congressman Richard Hudson. He is a member of the North Carolina delegation, and we so appreciate all that he is doing up there. And we want to know what you think. This is the Find Your Voice series. We want to know your opinion. We like to arm you with information, pun intended. Stay tuned. You're watching The Jill Berlin Show on WSJS.